Welcome back to the Spoonie and Caregiver Live podcast with me, your host, Jordan Banderas. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of the podcast. And let's go ahead and get into today's episode, shall we? Now, this particular episode is very important to me. I know I say that a lot, but this one is really important. The reason why is because I have noticed and I see this a lot with a lot of people that I know, and I include myself on that. And what happens is that we don't know how to talk about our current situations or whatever is going on in our lives at the moment. It could be a chronic illness, it could be a mental health issue, it could be just life itself, especially with everything that's going on. In my case, I have a chronic illness, which is PTSD. And yes, PTSD is a chronic illness. It's just like depression and anxiety because it derives from that. But one of the things that happened with me is that I never wanted to talk about it after I got my diagnosis. I was very closed off about it. I was like, nope, this is my issue. I'm going to deal with it. Because I felt like my life was out of control. Like I never had any control of my life after I got my diagnosis. And because of today's society, we're supposed to have, or the pressure that today's society puts on us, we feel like we have to have our life together by 18. We're supposed to have good grades. We're supposed to go to college or a university, get a degree, get married by a certain age, have kids by a certain age, have a house, have a good job, have a 401k, have all of these things. But obviously, life doesn't happen like that. And after I got my diagnosis, I felt very ashamed because I didn't have any control of my life. I felt like my life was spinning out of control because I was ashamed. Let's be honest, like I was ashamed of it. And one of the things that I had to do, which it was a steep learning curve, is I had to learn how to talk about it. One of the things that I had to do is remove the shame out of the conversation or out of the equation, depending on how you want to see it. The way that I did that, and the way that I think it's important to understand is that we have to understand that things that happen to us sometimes are out of our control, like becoming sick, getting a diagnosis of something, like in my case PTSD, or in your case it could be fibromyalgia, diabetes, all of these things. It can be out of your control. And just because you have that diagnosis, you shouldn't feel like your life is out of control, because to be honest, we don't have any control of our lives. The only thing that we have to do is learn how to manage the storms that come into our lives. We don't control anything. We control our decisions, yes. But sometimes those decisions are made due to our circumstances. And in my example for that is that due to the way that I was raised, due to the way that I was treated growing up, I was very angry. So that made me very aggressive. So based on that, I was aggressive with people around me. Like I was very aggressive, very violent, very, very aggressive. So those were the decisions that I had to make based on the circumstances that I had in my life. So now I understand that those circumstances made me a person that I wasn't supposed to be, because I wanted to conform to those circumstances. But what I should have done, obviously as a kid you never know, you don't understand it very well. What I had to know is that, or what I had to do in the situation is that I had to, instead of conform to the circumstances, I should have just managed to deal with the circumstances. Almost like what people say, like keeping a good attitude. So that's pretty much what it is. Like keeping a good attitude under certain circumstances that are out of your control. That's how you manage them. Like that's how I was able to manage the PTSD. And now I'm able to talk about it without any issues. Same thing with my wife. When she became ill, when I had to become her spoonie, I had to tell her like there's no shame on you being ill. And obviously, there's no shame on me being a caregiver because I don't know anything. I didn't know anything about her conditions. I didn't know anything about the depression or how bad her depression was, how bad her anxiety was. So at that point, again, I had to learn. The learning curve is very steep. It still is, and I'm learning something new every day because obviously she has all these conditions that keep happening and or that keep flaring up. So I have to learn. So that's how I manage it. That's how I manage the situation, and that's how I'm able to talk about it very freely without any shame because I feel like since I'm learning about it, there shouldn't be any shame about it too, about talking about it. If I'm learning about it, why should I be ashamed of talking about it, about what I'm going through? And this is something that probably a lot of you the listeners are going through right now. Like if you're facing an illness right now, if you have anxiety, depression, or anything, you don't want to talk about it because of the shame that comes with it. Especially invisible and mental health issues, they're very stigmatized. But let me tell you this. Once you remove the shame out of the conversation or the equation and you start talking about it without the shame that comes with it actually feels good because it feels like you can talk to people, and it also helps you be more receptive about the feedback that other people have about your situation. Because in this situation, in my case, I want to learn more how I can become a better caregiver or a better person overall. So I listen to, for example, Jay Shetty, who was a monk at one point, so he knows about mindfulness and everything. So I learn a lot from him because I'm like, oh, so this is like when he talks about like the reason why we feel a certain way sometimes based on our situations. I'm like, oh, that's the reason why I feel like that when this happened, like. So I learn from people, and that's why it's important for me to talk about it, because if somebody has some feedback or somebody shares their story on how they deal with the issue, and I can relate to the issue, maybe I can learn something. And that's why I'm talking about this, because what if somebody learns something about why I'm or from what I'm saying. What if somebody learns something from what I'm saying? That's pretty much what I was trying to say. And when you remove the shame, you're gonna be like, hey, yeah, I have this condition. There's nothing that I can do, but I'm gonna manage it. Like I might never get better. I might never get better. I might never be 100% okay, but I'm gonna manage it, and I'm okay with being like 90% okay. Like we just have to learn how to manage it. And like I said, it makes life a lot easier. One of the things that I have done, or that I have seen, not that I have done, one of the things that I have seen, especially with my wife, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, is that when my wife started removing the shame out of her situation, like her conditions, like like the depression, the anxiety, the fibromyalgia, all of that, once she did that, she actually started doing a lot better. And when I saw her doing that, I looked back at myself and I said, did I get better by removing the shame as well? And I noticed that I did. So that's how I learned how to talk about my chronic illness, and my wife is learning about it. So if this is something that you're dealing with right now, like you don't know how to talk about your current situation, it could be, like I said, chronic illness or anything going on, just remove the shame out of it. Understand that you're never in control of your life. You just deal with the situation a certain way. you just literally go with the flow sometimes, depending on how you see your life. It might be different than what I'm saying. But once you remove the shame, then it gets a lot easier to talk about it. And then you also can find the help that you need to fix your situation or to help you look at your situation in a different way. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys are enjoying the episodes, and I hope you guys are really liking it, because I really like doing this. And thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything that you guys are doing. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Also, don't forget to join the community on Facebook, the Spoonie and Caregiver Life community. And if you want to share your story, you can do it anonymously at the Spoonie and Caregiver Life at gmail.com, or you can post it on the community. And thank you for growing the community. I really like it. And I'll leave you like always. Always take care of yourself and have a great day.